that are not on the agenda. If you have comments on agenda items, we'll get to that at that point in time. Any public comments? Any online?
No hands are raised.
Okay, I'll close public comments. Next, item 3, approval of the minutes, but we didn't get the minutes, which I don't think any of us, we need to study those more closely. So we'll defer that item until the next meeting. All right. So now we'll open to item 4, which are public hearings. First one is a special structures permit for 180 Isabella Avenue. And I believe the Jerry is doing the presentation on this.
Yes, Jerry Martin, assistant planner here, presenting the special structures permit request for 180 Isabella Avenue. Next slide, please. So the applicant is requesting a special structures permit to locate a swimming pool aligned with the front line of the main residence as opposed to 30 feet behind. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the special structures permit request to allow the swimming pool to be aligned with the front line of the main residence. And it will be a total of 60 feet from the front right of way. And we make this recommendation based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval certificate. Next slide, please. So 180 Isabella is around a 2-acre rectangular lot in the R1A zoning district. It's accessed from Isabella Avenue, and to the east and west are other large 2-acre lots. To the north is a 1-acre lot, and then across Isabella to the south is mostly the Menlo Circus Club. As you see there, their tennis courts are there. And the other couple of properties that abut to the south are a 1-acre flag lot and another acre semi-rectangular lot. Another interesting thing about this property is that the front property line extends into the street. So it is represented by a 20-foot right-of-way easement. Because of that, we're taking our front setback line from the edge of that right-of-way easement instead of the property line, because property line is in the middle of the street. So the property currently contains a residence and detached garage, which are proposed to be demolished as part of this project. Next slide, please. So the applicant is proposing a new around 8,000 square foot, 1-story single-family residence with a small basement, a 600 square foot swimming pool, which is the subject of the special structures permit request, and other small accessory structures around the property, including an outdoor barbecue, an art sculpture, and just utility court. And I've done 2 reviews of this project already, so the rest of the project complies with the Atherton Municipal Code, except for the location of the swimming pool. So the swimming pool requires a special structures permit because it's located further than the front setback allowed for accessory structures. That line, which is the front setback for accessory structures, is shown in green on that site plan there, which is 30 feet behind the front line of the main residence, which is shown in orange. So as you can see there, it's moved up to that line, actually at the converging point of the front setback for the main residence. So that means that its furthest forward point, it's 60 feet from that front right of way. Next slide, please. So planning department believes that this project makes all of the findings required for a special structures permit request. The first finding is that the proposed building or structure will not negatively impact neighboring properties with respect to privacy and view. We believe that this finding is met because the swimming pool is located within a courtyard in the building footprint, so it will not be visible from the neighbors from the east to the west. It is being screened by the building itself, so they won't even be able to look at it. Normally, an accessory structure can go up to 10 feet to the sides, but this is being located in the middle of the property. And it's also minimally visible to the properties across Isabella to the south. Like I said earlier, most of the south property line abuts the Menlo Circus Club and its non-residential uses, and it's the tennis courts there. And of the other properties that are to the south, one is a flag lot with a very long driveway, so it won't be visible from there. And then the other doesn't really overlap with the subject property much at all. And even then, the house on that property faces away from the area where the pool would be located. The subject property and all nearby properties all have fencing around their front and side property lines, as well as sufficient screening with trees. The second finding is that the proposed building or structure complies with other development standards, restrictions, or limitations for the proposed building or structure, such as height and landscape screening. And this finding is also met. As I mentioned earlier, I've reviewed this project, though it's not been approved yet, but so far everything has met the Atherton Municipal Code, except for the location of the pool. The third finding is that the granting of the special structures permit is consistent with the objectives of the general plan in this title. We believe that this finding is also met because it will not impact Atherton's semi-rural town character. The swimming pool is in ground and will have little visual presence outside of the residence. And because it's located entirely in the buildable area, it's not any closer than a 30-foot main residence could potentially be located. In addition, it will not impact heritage trees. Next slide, please. I will also mention that the applicant submitted an applicant narrative, which talks about why, or makes their case beyond the findings here, and that's included as an attachment. And after my presentation during the public comment period, someone from the applicant team will be ready to answer questions from the commissioners. So the recommended motion is that I move the planning commission to approve the special structures permit at 180 Isabella Avenue to allow a swimming pool to be aligned with the front line of the main residence, where 30 feet behind is normally required, for a total of 60 feet from the front right of way. And that we make that recommendation based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval certificate. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, commissioners, comments or questions at this point?
The only question I have is, have there been, they're not included, but any comments from neighbors or anything like that?
I have not received any comments from neighbors.
Okay.
I had one question. How often does that happen where the property line's in the middle of the street?
I've seen that in several properties. It's not common, but every now and then, maybe the lots existed that way before, and then the city decided to build a street in the middle, but just decided to do it as an easement instead of a public street.
Okay, if there's nothing else from the commissioners, I'll open it to public comment. None on the floor. Anybody online?
I do not see any hands raised.
Yes, should be Jimmy. Well,
Yeah, I mean, so hi everyone. Jimmy Yurisovich with the design team and the applicant. I'm just here for clarifications. I don't have anything more to add beyond what Jerry has on our behalf. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to expand on stuff.
I don't have any questions right now.
Sorry to ruin your evening, but we don't have any questions.
It's quite all right. Thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll close public comment and one last chance for Barry and all. Special structures. Second.
Second. We need to read it out? Or is that?
Yeah, I'll read it. The planning commission, where is this?
For the
I move
record.
that the planning commission approve the special structures permit at 180 Isabella Avenue to allow a swimming pool to be aligned with the front line of the main residence, where 30 feet behind is required, for a total of 60 feet from the front right of way, based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval certificate.
We have a motion moved and seconded. All vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item passes. Jerry, good job. I meant to thank you last meeting. You did a good job on that presentation also.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. That's got to do with the playing fields over at the Menlo Schools, 65 Alejandra Avenue. We want to put up a netting, I guess you'd call it. It's not a fence along that entire frontage on Alejandra. We've got the staff report on that. Is Lauren?
So Lauren French, Assistant Planner. So yeah, tonight's, this agenda item is a request for a conditional use permit and a variance at Wonderlick Field, which is located at 65 Alejandra Avenue, which is Menlo School or jointly owned by Menlo School. Planning staff recommends the approval of a conditional use permit, CUP 26001, and a variance, VAR 26003. This would allow the installation of new sports field netting and fencing along the front property line to Wonderlick Field. The need for a conditional use permit is centered around Atherton Municipal Code, Chapter 17.36, which lays out requirements for public facilities and schools. All schools are required by this chapter to provide a campus master plan that outlines their operations and activities. Any facility change, improvement, or new construction is required to obtain a conditional use permit under this chapter. And any application for a conditional use permit needs to be evaluated for consistency with the campus master plan. Furthermore, the development standards also contained in Chapter 17.36 require that all buildings and structures are treated as a main building rather than an accessory structure. Therefore, development standards for a main building, including height and setbacks, would be applicable to this project. And there would also be a need for a tree protection zone, which can be evaluated at staff level and is not before the commission tonight. So again, the project's location is at 65 Alejandra Avenue, APN 070-360-110. It is zoned as public facilities and schools and is approximately 5.5 acres. The 2025 master plan for Menlo School indicates that the field is jointly owned and operated by both Menlo School and Menlo College. It's used exclusively for school activities, practices, and league games. It has regular operating hours of Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. To 3:30 p.m. and on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to sunset. And this project proposes no change in the use or operating hours at the field. So per the applicant's project narrative letter, the existing fencing along Alejandra Avenue is insufficient to prevent balls from leaving the field and entering the public right-of-way. Therefore, it poses a potential safety concern for vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians on Alejandra. So the applicant is proposing approximately 330 feet of netting along the Alejandra Avenue frontage, shown on the diagram to the right. It conforms with all PFS zoning district standards outside of the front and side yard setbacks. So it conforms with height. It's proposed to be 21 feet. It would need a variance on the front yard setback rather than being 60 feet. It would have no front setback. And the side yard setback would be 15 feet rather than 50 feet. And again, the tree protection zone, there's 3 trees that could potentially be affected by this, all of which can be reviewed by the town arborist during building permit review. Again, the proposed netting is 21 feet in height and is proposed to match existing netting that is along the north edge of the field along the service drive, which is pictured on the left. So findings. So to get for a conditional use permit, the planning commission needs to make 2 findings. The first one, this proposed netting, or excuse me, the proposed use is consistent with the general plan and all applicable provisions in this title. This finding can be made. The final building permit would be conditioned on on requirements from the town arborist consistent with general plan goals and objectives. specifically goal LU3, which maintains the town's character as a scenic, semi-rural, thickly wooded residential area. The second condition, or the second finding that would need to be met, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the use applied to or will not, under any circumstances of the particular case, location, size, design, and operating characteristics, be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of such a use. The planning department feels this finding can also be made. The installation of the netting would not change the use or intensity or activity on the field and would improve safety for pedestrians and vehicles along Alejandra. For a variance, 4 findings need to be met. The first of which, there are special circumstances applicable to the property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, such as that the strict application of this title deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other property owners in the vicinity and under identical land use zoning district classifications. This finding can be made. The property's use as an athletic field represents a unique operational circumstance. Whereas a strict application of the development standards, particularly for the setbacks, would effectively preclude the installation of the netting because it would need to be installed inside the field. The second finding that needs to be met, granting a variance does not constitute a special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and land use zoning district in which the property is located. This finding can also be made. Granting a variance for the side and front and side setbacks would not constitute a special privilege, as the property is zoned public facilities and schools, and the proposed netting would support existing athletic field use. The variance would not alter the intensity of the existing activities occurring at the field and would increase safety, again, for vehicles along Alejandra, or vehicles and pedestrians, I should say. The third finding that needs to be made, granting a variance will not adversely affect the interest of the public or the interest of residents and property owners in the vicinity of the premises in question. This finding can be made. The netting would improve safety and would not alter or intensify activities. As a result, granting the variance would not adversely affect the interests of nearby residents. And number 4, the granting of a variance is consistent with the objectives of the general plan and this title. This finding can be made. Granting a variance to reduce the setbacks is consistent with the following objectives. Policy LU 1.6, to preserve the open space characteristics of existing schools, churches, and park facilities. Policy LU 2, to assure development of private schools continue to reflect the town's character as a scenic, semi-rural, and thickly wooded residential area. And policy LU 3.1 requests private schools to prepare master plans that are reviewed annually by the Planning Commission. So there is no landscaping requirement for the zoning code. However, we did field a number of public comments, particularly concerning the potential visual impacts of the installation of the netting. Generally speaking, there was a desire for landscape screening of some sort to be installed as a condition of approval. There was also a preference expressed for vegetative screening as a potential alternative to netting. And also there was concerns raised that the public right-of-way or the public right-of-way or the frontage, I should say, in front of the fence that people have been setting up there in seating for the viewing of games. So installing screening could potentially mitigate that issue. Otherwise, planning, the recommended motion is to approve the conditional use permit, CUP 25001, and the variance, VAR 26003, to allow installation of new fencing and sports netting at Wonderlic Field, and to determine the project category exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA section 15314, minor additions to schools. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Open up for questions or comments from the commissioners.
At what point do we read the letter that was submitted by a nearby homeowner?
I did read it. I presume that was included in your mention of comments.
Yes, so we've included both, we've received two letters. Both have been included as part of the agenda materials and are available online. So they're therefore now part of the public record. We also have received, or we've put out copies for you at your seats in case you didn't have time to read them. I know that some individuals are still here in person, so we don't actually go and read those letters into the record. They're just incorporated into the record and shared with you.
I saw the one, I must admit to you, I did not see a second letter.
There, okay,
I'd say it wasn't there. I just didn't see it in my packet.
sure. So one of the letters we received maybe an hour before the meeting. And so
Good.
that's printed out in front of you.
Can that please be read?
Sure.
Thank you.
I believe that individual was also in attendance and prepared to speak.
Great.
So, was that the only question before we go to public comment?
Well, obviously the schools are a property. So when you start talking about maintaining the character of the town as residential and thickly wooded and yada, yada, more or less by definition, the schools don't technically fit that mold. They haven't, and they've been here a long time. So I don't expect them to necessarily, but familiar with that entire street. I'm familiar with people standing outside the fence to watch games or practices or whatever. One of the letters did suggest that fields should have been run the other way. I haven't studied whether that's even feasible, practical, or
Field
anything.
is run both ways. There are goals. I mean, I was out there today. Looked at it. I mean, we've been on that field. So it is set up that you can run it both ways.
But I guess my main question here is, those fields have been there for a long time. Was there some event that triggered did somebody get sued or something over a ball?
I can tell you, I've driven, I mean, I live there over there. So, and I drive that street along and I have seen soccer balls fly over there.
Okay.
I mean, I've personally experienced
As
it.
have I.
I'm not aware of a specific triggering event. I know that this is has been somewhat of an ongoing issue I've heard from residents. I think in some of the feedback in public comment that you'll hear tonight, there is acknowledgement that there is a need for a solution. The mechanism by which to solve that solution might vary based on the experiences of these neighbors. And the school can speak to what instigated filing the application.
Okay. Other questions or comments before?
So I'd like to hear the letter that we didn't have the benefit of reading,
Sure.
please.
Let me, I believe Stephanie Disher is online.
Yes.
Ms. Disher, do you want to read the letter? There we go.
Hi, my letter is highly visual, so I can
Okay.
read that letter. I also have something prepared to say, but you would have to, they would have to look at the letter as I read it because there are several pictures.
Sure. Let me share it then. Give us a moment. Lauren, can you stop sharing yours? Okay, so I believe you also have a copy, physical copy attached to the PowerPoint presentation in front of you. I'm sharing for the benefit of others.
Okay, so do you want me to read it?
Let's give them a second to find it.
Okay.
Found it.
Okay, go ahead.
I urge you to deny permission to Menlo for a 21-foot fence. They can call it a net, but the result would be an aesthetically repulsive 21-foot fence that will further diminish property values on Alejandra. Make no doubt this net fits the definition of a fence, and in the footnote I have supplied the Oxford Language Dictionary definition. Instead, Menlo can deflect balls from the street in aesthetically pleasing ways and should be required to do so. Through material overuse and an unapproved field design, Menlo created the problem they described today. Currently, Menlo uses 10 to 12-foot temporary nets. The bushes planted along the street are in ill health and have not grown, hence the visual consequence. And you can see the picture. The first image shows Menlo's constant disregard of town policy that requires noise and activity to center as far from the residential boundaries as possible. Rather, the southwest residentially bordered quadrant is Menlo's popular choice, even when other parts of the field are not in use. The second picture evidences Menlo's disregard for their cup that requires landscaping along the athletic field. Dead and stunted bushes detract from Alejandra's charm while enabling tailgating on our residential street. The picture of the current nets, speak for themselves. Menlo can solve their problem while adding to Alejandra's charm. Menlo's neighbor, Elizabeth King, suggests a 20-foot hedge of English laurel. This is seen along many of the properties already on Alejandra. This would block balls, mitigate some sound, add charm and beauty to Alejandra, and deter tailgaters as they could not watch games through the hedge. What is happening on Wunderlich Field merits immediate corrections and penalties. It is Menlo's material overuse of Wunderlich Field that creates the problems necessitating a street barrier. Menlo applied for a permit to turf Wunderlich Field in 2004. When they actually installed the turf years later, the field design reflected the same Wunderlich Field historical design, a single centered soccer field with a softball field on the street corner next to the tennis courts. The design incorporated healthy setbacks and moved activity away from the residential borders that share Menlo's fence. Shaded bleachers are also on the tennis court side. About a year ago, Menlo installed the turf field. About a year after Menlo installed the turf field, Carton Field neighbors unearthed the CUP agreement restricting use on Carton Field. So Menlo abruptly informed their neighbors that the new turf released unhealthy fumes. They returfed the field the following summer. The returfed field does not require a permit, and it allowed Menlo to slip the design in that we have today. So in the first picture, you see a copy of the original turfed field that they had approved by the town, and it was the same historical design. It was a single soccer field centered in the very middle of the field with a good setback on the residential side. The new turf field that they just returfed a year later, after not being allowed to use Carton Field the way they wanted, has 2 soccer fields. It's been turned into a sports athletic complex. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to expand on that because I had to quickly write the letter. This new design was not approved by the town, and while no one was looking, Menlo slipped in the design we have today, a field designed to support a maximum number of athletes simultaneously, devoid of setbacks, to achieve material overuse of Wunderlich Field. I'm sorry, I just lost it. It is Menlo's material overuse and student body growth that causes any ball in the street problem. Menlo should not profit from their illicit use of the field. Rather, a new and approved field design is in order. I include a letter from the former planning director that confirms Menlo did not seek approval for Wunderlich redesign. She says that that the original turf required a building permit, but turf replacement does not require a building permit. And so you can just go ahead and install it. So planning review was not required for the turf replacement. So this is an unapproved design that's causing the problems that we speak of today. So please require Menlo to plant a 20-foot well-maintained English laurel hedge to alleviate balls flying into the street. In addition, please require Menlo to use their field appropriately instead of turning a blind eye to the facts. So someone asked if why is this suddenly a problem? It's a problem because the school has been allowed to grow, and it's a problem because they're using the field in a completely unreasonable way. It's the town's duty to ease friction between zoning boundaries, and Wunderlich sits on such a boundary. The proposed 21-foot fence will further discount Alejandra property values that already suffer from the effects of the burgeoning populations at Menlo School and College. And it will also just be distressing to drive past an incredibly unsightly net. You can see in the letter I sent how visually displeasing Menlo's 10 to 12-foot net is. Make no mistake, Menlo created their need for a net. At the very least, they should be required to solve their problem with a solution that increases Alejandra's charm instead of detracts from it. While Menlo's Carton Field is subject to deed restrictions, there are no limits on Wunderlich. Consequently, and without permission, Menlo drew new lines on Wunderlich Field in 2016 to create an all-season, multi-use athletic facility where several teams practice at one time, while still allowing for single-use, full-size collegiate Division II games right 10 feet from the residential border. What was once a single soccer field with large residential setbacks became several fields with permanent lines marked to host simultaneous games, practices, and activities with no regard for setbacks. Menlo's use of Wunderlich is not reasonable or ordinary. The untenable redesign of the field, the number of teams using the field, and the concentration of activity as close as possible to the residential neighbors is illustrative of their disregard.
She's reading.
Wunderlich Field, Menlo School, Menlo College, and Menlo Lower School have a total population of about 1,815 students. Most of the activity is on Wunderlich Field. It has been allowed to grow and grow and grow. Menlo's bursting at the seams. They don't have the space. And so that's why they redesigned the field to put as many kids out there as possible. It cannot support the number. It can't support what it's being used for. My family moved to Alejandra Avenue in 1978. We have gone from being neighbors to a small private school to being adjacent to an unruly athletic complex that locks the community out. Please require Menlo to plant and care for a 21-foot English laurel hedge, as many Alejandra neighbors have already done. The hedge will deflect balls while enhancing Alejandra's charm and reducing some noise, and this would be a compromise. Menlo's material overuse of the field will still need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. So Chair Polito, I just want to be clear that she went beyond the letter, and I think it sounds like she went into her public comment. So just
Yes.
kind of delineating that. We haven't opened public comment yet, so
Oh,
it's fine.
well, I just took my turn. Sorry about that.
Nobody stopped you, but just clarifying that for the record.
I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Yes.
Consider public comments open.
Well, typically we start public comment with the applicant. So if anybody is here from the school, we would normally hear from them first,
Okay.
and then we would go on to
Yes, ma'am.
others.
Hello? Okay. My name is Amrit Chima. I'm the Director of Operations at Menlo School. Simon Parrott is also here. He's from Colony Landscaping, our contractor on this project. Colony also developed the plan and installed a very similar netting for Sacred Heart Prep that was approved in 2023. That includes fencing of 12 feet and 20 feet. So we're grateful for their partnership in helping us navigate this based on their previous experience. We also appreciate the feedback from our neighbors. I thank Lauren for passing that on so we had a chance to review, and also the opportunity to address their concerns. Our primary goal here is improved safety. We want to protect cars, pedestrians from ball and neighboring yards from balls that leave the playing field. Additionally, we want to protect spectators and students who have left the playing field and cross traffic to try to retrieve balls that have left the playing field. There will be no increase in the frequency of usage or the type of usage based on this project. Again, the primary goal is for safety. Our field accommodates practice and competition for both high school and collegiate level competition. Based on the requirements, in particular for soccer, for both the high school and collegiate level, we cannot rotate the field to run parallel with Alejandra, as we do not have the minimum number of feet required even for a high school field. Thus, it runs perpendicular to Alejandra to accommodate both those levels of play. That is one difference between the field along Emily for Sacred Heart Prep, which serves pre-K through 8, whereas we hold competition and practice at a higher level, high school through collegiate play. The application that we submitted to the town includes an arborist report with specifications on how to ensure the safety of the 3 oaks that are located on Alejandra. Additionally, the town arborist has approved the posts, but under very specific conditions, and those have been included in the plan. The poles that are going to be installed are 4 inches in diameter, and they match the existing size of the poles along the frontage road and the fencing that currently wraps around the softball field. So there's the new poles are no larger than what currently exists. The fencing that exists that is green would be replaced by black fencing and black netting. And we do agree that the solution we have now could be much more aesthetically pleasing. And we believe this project will help accomplish that. It will be consistent with what already exists and won't stand out quite as much as the green fencing that's there now. We did examine Sacred Heart Prep's netting to determine some possible solutions for landscaping. There is ivy along their fencing, but it only goes as high as the fence itself. So the netting there, which in that particular area is about 12 feet above the ground, does not have any landscaping coverage, just the ivy sort of about 5 feet up. We would be interested in the town sharing information on any of the feedback they received regarding the netting along Emily when that project was discussed in 2023 to better understand the feedback or what was proposed, as our project is very similar. Now, again, our netting is slightly higher, and that is based on the level of play and also the direction of the field, with the goals being the field running essentially perpendicular to Alejandra, with the goal sitting along that fence. I think those are our comments for now. Simon is available. He can speak to some of the more technical aspects of the project and including returfing that had happened historically at Menlo. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yes.
My name is, I live at 1 Brittany Meadows, and I'm probably in one house that's the most affected by balls coming over the fence and winding up on our children's play structure, grandchildren play, and our pool. Typically it's lacrosse balls that are more worrisome than soccer balls, but it's pretty frequent because there's really no netting. Every once in a while, there's a hard ball. Sometimes the college goes out and starts lofting balls, so that's one of the concerns I have. You say there's no use, but that's one of the unintended consequences is that, the high school and the college might be more likely when it rains to go start doing their batting practice. And I've been around this with Than many times, and he's fabulous to the neighbors and he's great to work with. But for some reason, this one issue, he is not willing to ban hardballs on Wonderlic. The previous administration did ban hardballs on Wonderlic Field because they were coming over the fence, and I had a letter from a attorney, well-known, personal injury attorney, saying it'd be triple damages, and contacted the insurance company, and they said no hardballs. But for some reason, at the current moment, the school is not willing to ban hardball. So it's a softball field. And if you have a fence, you know, it's just going to encourage people to bring out a baseball bat and start hitting balls. And it's happened before. Fence was lower. So I speak in favor of the fence. I mean, if you can make it more attractive, I think that's a total win. I think the other issues with, you know, having a double field now where you have events going, you know, parallel to Alejandra and perpendicular, that's a new thing. It just means, you know, 3 times the activity on it. And I guess that could be addressed at a later. I mean, I'm not opposing that. I'm in favor of some kind of a barrier. The more attractive you can make it, the better, but it would be great for the 2 neighbors, us and the people next door, if we could have some kind of a barrier between the street and our house. Now, is this fence going to be, this is going to be outside fence, you said, or inside the field? I missed that.
Yeah, it's proposed to be installed along the property line on the front of the field. So along that existing fence line is where the new netting would be proposed
So
to be
right
installed.
up from the.
Yeah, exactly.
With that. Okay, well, thank you for your attention.
I do have a question for you. I'm looking at a map here. So you're at number 1 Brittany Meadows.
Yes, sir.
That on the, is that the corner of Alejandra, like with,
And
what would that
Brittany
be? The
Meadows. Yeah, the
southwest
yellow
corner?
house. Yeah,
Next to the vacant lot?
yes,
Okay, so you're saying that like lacrosse balls
yes.
are go over the temporary fence that's there now,
And over our
which-
fence onto.
and then across Alejandra,
Yeah,
over your fence,
and into the pool.
into the yard.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
And
school
that
tried to
fence-
put up a fence, you know, years ago, but it passed, so.
And the current fence on Alejandra is how tall again? Do we know that temporary fence that's there along Alejandra?
12 feet.
About 5 feet.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I had the visual correctly.
Yeah.
That you're at that lot and things kind of come over the fence, across the street and over your wall into the yard,
Into the pool.
into the pool. Okay.
So-
Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you for your.
Any further public comment?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
David, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to use the word outrageous a few times.
Would
at
you
the
please
very
identify yourself?
I'm sorry, David Disher.
Okay.
At the very beginning of this meeting, somebody said, and the picture was so small I couldn't really see it, that this is netting, not a fence. That's outrageous. In the planning department's presentation, they showed you what anybody would consider a fence running along that driveway. 21-foot, 4-inch poles, wire at the top, black netting is a fence. If you look at that picture, which I'm so glad they showed you, nobody in their right mind would say that's not a fence. Trying to call it a net to minimize the effect on the neighborhood, the aesthetics of that street is deceptive and purposeful. Second, outrageous. The person from Menlo said Sacred Heart has a 12-foot fence, and Menlo is proposing a slightly higher net. A slightly higher fence, I will say. It's a fence, it's not a net. I'm sorry, in my world, 21 is not slightly more than 12. Anybody who says that is being deceptive. In this presentation from the planning commission, from the planning department, to say that the variance, I'm looking at my notes, will not harm residents. It absolutely will. When you walk out of my wife's property, my mother-in-law's property at 69 Alejandra, and you look out the front yard and you see a 21-foot, 4-inch black pole in the corner of their front yard, are you serious? That's outrageous to say that there is no harm to neighbors. Stephanie talked about this creep of continue use and expansion of use of Menlo School. What's the next thing they're going to ask for? A 21-foot fence along this property line between their place and 69 Alejandra? A 40-foot fence because they want to play baseball, or the lacrosse balls are going over a 21-foot fence? It's time to rein them in, because it's outrageous what has been happening and what has been let to have happen at Menlo School. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment? Or
Avenue, and we've been neighbors of Menlo's for 50 years. And I fully appreciate their concern for safety, and with all the problems that they're experiencing. I too have had, we share a border with them. So we too have had balls in our yard, and we've, all the same, the sound, but I want to propose a better alternative to you than the 20 foot net or fence with 20-foot pole at 10 or less intervals. I would like to propose a green wall. A green wall, which could be a 20-foot English laurel hedge, which would block balls. They would have a soft landing. It would sound as a sound barrier for the acoustics and the music and things that they play over there. It would also serve as a deterrent for parking on Alejandra, because people like to pull up to the fence and look through it. There's no ivy actually that I'm aware of, and they can see right through it, and they like to watch the games. So all those things I think could be solved in a much more attractive manner. And also, I can attest to this because I share the border with them. I share the noise, I share the balls. I share the safety hazards because they come right into my yard. Right, I have grandchildren. I'm going to have a great grandchild, and I have, children in my yard, and elderly people as well. So I too am concerned about safety. But I have a hedge, an English laurel hedge, which is basically a double hedge because they have it on their side, I have it on my side. It does serve as a sound barrier. It does block most of the balls. It would block more if they would stop trimming the top, because I want it to grow as high as it can grow to block the balls. So some do get over, but it wouldn't if they were full grown. And I just feel that it's a really attractive alternative. I did not want the net personally, and I think it detracts from the appearance on Alejandra. I grew up in Riverside, Illinois, which is the first planned community that Frederick Olmsted designed. And it's perfectly beautiful with winding streets. You know, he designed Stanford's campus too, and the Mariposa Grove in Yosemite. And he can combine infrastructure with nature and green wooded swaths of area. I mean, I think it would be beautiful to have a hedge along there. And I think it would really enhance the value on Alejandra and be more in keeping with the Atherton Charter. After all, that's why we live. Want wooded nature. We want something that's pretty, beautiful. And I think that would provide a beautiful hedge. And I feel so strongly about it because this has been instilled in me. I grew up with it. And I would like to volunteer to contribute to Menlo School or the hedge. And I can't, they're not going to, you can't set it back further on your property because that would detract from the length of your, but right now, you're going to place it exactly where the chain link fence is now, right?
I'm with the town. Those are the school representatives.
So it's going to be very obvious and very ugly. I tell you, it's going to be ugly. It's not going to enhance it. And if you could do what Sacred Heart did and set it back a little bit, or if you could put a hedge in front of it, or if you could do anything like that to make it more amenable, I would appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
I mean, we've been neighbors for a long time and I'd like to continue it, but I really do feel that this is going to be together to make.
Timer. Thank you. Any further public comments? Online or? All right, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners for further discussion.
I'd like to say that it seems like, having been over there a couple times, it seems like the school didn't even make an effort to be proactive and solve this problem ahead of time, because the bushes there are pretty sad looking. And if they would have planted English laurel when they did this field, we wouldn't be even having this discussion.
I'm sorry, we've closed public comment. I apologize, but we realize that we can see it now. I wish I'd done a better job of looking at it myself. Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
I'm finished.
Okay.
I will come up with a couple of things here. First of all, I want to make sure, just for the purposes of the meeting tonight, we're just talking about what is it, 330 feet along Alejandra, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the 21 feet that we're talking about, and how that came about is to match the rest of the fencing that's along the service driveway. Is that correct? I'm just asking.
We're asking questions. So yes, you can answer the question.
If you are asked a question by the commissioners and need to respond, please go up to the mic so our minutes takers can get you into the minutes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's both to match what's existing and also to accommodate the level of play that exists on that field being a higher level than sort of like a lower, like an elementary or middle school, the
Right.
direction of the field.
So the existing service driveway fence is also 21 feet. then?
Correct.
Be matching all the way around. Okay.
Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
My feeling is, and Jerry, I kind of agree with you, is even though it wasn't done earlier, I think looking at this and listening to everybody, a combination of the netting with either the laurels or pittosporum or something, I do think there needs to be some screening, probably on the outside of the fence. You might have to move the fence in a little bit. I don't know how realistic that is, but without getting into any details, I think combining the net with screening on the outside, that's the compromise I kind of think about. That kind of suits safety and the appearance of the net, screening of the net. And I don't think just putting laurels in on their own is the answer. I think the combination would, my eyes, the way to go.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
Somewhat disturbing to hear that we approved a turf field based on a set of plans, and then the turf field that's there now is apparently dramatically different. Did the original turf field only have a soccer field running parallel to Alejandra?
Yeah, I mean, Simon might have been, I don't know if they were involved. To be honest, I, was not at Menlo at that time. I'm in my second year now. So I would need a chance to look at some of the, email exchanges and historical documents to be able to better understand
Staff, no?
what that process was.
Town planner Brittany Bendix, no, I have not gone through the documents to look at that. I have met with, I believe Stephanie Disher before, and I've heard some of the challenges she's had as a neighbor. My recommendation on kind of the operations of the field is that we look at that more closely when we do the master plan update. And we can
Which we
have a
just did.
narrative. Well, we did that in December. They're required to do it either December or September. I can't remember exactly. But they are required to do it annually. So we will see them again in 2026.
But Stephanie can answer. The lines absolutely did change.
I don't think that's really what we're looking at here, right? We're not looking at the use of the soccer field. We're looking at the fencing and whether or not we're planting in front of it or not. I think it gets us off track. I think it's not our purview to analyzing what's going on the soccer field.
It will be the next time we review the conditional use permit,
It will.
master plan.
Right.
And so I was not aware of this and depending upon the original turf field that we approved, and if we have something as dramatically different as I believe we have, not quite sure how that happened.
So based on the emails from the neighbors, it appears to have happened over a building permit. And since I have been here, we've dealt with an issue of grading and drainage permits, for example, that included sports courts on private properties that were not routed to planning for review. And so in addressing that, that was the 71 Selby variance where we went out and did an inspection and the sports court had moved to within the setback, but we didn't see it because it was on a type of building permit that wasn't routed to us. We've since inserted ourselves into that process, so we would catch that sort of thing. But it is possible. I'm not entirely sure when the permit was reviewed and approved. It looks like the former planning director in 2021 looked into it and acknowledged that planning didn't review it. So I would have to look then to see what the differentiation was.
So if I'm interpreting this correctly, I'm hoping to get us back to the core point and why we're hearing the issue before us. But it also sounds like there should be a notation that the school could lose the use of their field as they're using it now when the conditional use permit comes up for renewal. Am I understanding that correctly?
I wouldn't
Hypothetically.
put it in that terms. The use isn't there's a question as to whether or not the use was intensified when it shifted either in orientation or even to turf material. That I am not sure of. And then we would need to look at how long they've vested those activities. The use permit is not currently anticipated to come up for question. What we have in place is every year, the school is required to come and give an update on what their activities have been and where they might seek additional approvals in the future. So it would raise the issue for further public discussion, but it wouldn't necessarily change the operations of the campus at this point.
Got it. Thank you.
And it might not then in the future. It would just disclose some research on my end publicly to give an opportunity for further discussion to occur.
Got it. Thank you. Right. Can I make comments on the proposal at this point? Sure. So I also live on that side of town. I've observed the safety issues associated with the play and the play falling into the street. There is clearly a current aesthetic issue as well. There is nothing attractive about the way that is set up right now at all. My inclination would be to deny the fence and request that 20-foot English laurels be planted all the way along that fence. It solves the aesthetic issue. It solves the safety issue. And the other thing it does, it will also deter people from attempting to watch sporting events along that area as well.
Respond quick.
What's the distance between the property line fence and Alejandra?
Not much, yeah.
Probably 10.
I mean, I've been there many times, but I never got out my tape measure
10,
and
12 feet.
10, 12 feet.
the
There's-
distance between the fence and the sideline of the parallel soccer field.
Is the nature of your question, is there enough room between the edge of that fence and the street to put in
English laurel.
large English laurels? But I'm on the board of directors of a nursery company. I was the CEO of Sunset. I'm not an expert, but no more than the average person. You could easily put very tall English laurels. They can be trimmed so they are no more than 5 or 6 feet wide in that space. I hope that's helpful.
It was very helpful to me.
The only concern that we might have is given, and I'd have to look into this further, given the velocity with which some of those kids throw a lacrosse ball, right? A soccer ball is a little bit different. I would be concerned as to whether the laurel would actually stop it the same way, certainly a netting would, which is, I'm assuming why they've done similar projects like this at the other campuses, as opposed to landscaping, but that would be and again, that just has to concern based on the nature of that game and the direction that they're playing of would that actually keep a ball from entering the roadway or a neighboring property?
A 5 foot or 6 foot wide English laurel would easily stop a baseball, soccer ball. That would not be an issue.
I don't have any objection to putting up the netting after the laurels are in place. Because I don't want to reward the school for what they've done already. They've kind of just neglected this area and taken advantage of the situation. So put in the laurel and then say, yes, now you can put in the fence or netting.
Sandy?
I think what's there looks very unattractive right now. I mean, with the orange material in between, it definitely looks like netting. So, and I was at Sacred Heart when we put in that fencing. You also don't realize is when you paint it black, when it's black up there, it does not look, I mean, it almost looks like it's not there. I can certainly understand neighbors wanting some planting there. So I would be in favor of doing some planting as well. I can understand that. And those bushes, as you go down toward the tennis court, are awfully scrubby. And so I think that certainly as a concession to the neighbors, and it would look nicer for the school too, we could have some planting. But I think, we need to realize it is a field, a lacrosse ball in some cases. I mean, I've never seen anybody play baseball out there. So I don't know. I've only seen lacrosse and when these things are happening, it's not so much during games, it's during practices that they're really going. So, so that's what I would be in.
So Steve, I have a question for you, and that is, from your experience, if you were looking at laurels, what kind of a time frame are we looking at for those to be mature enough to get to, say, 18? Because I don't know.
The answer is how big are the box?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, you have to,
honestly, how big are the box laurels?
and you have to go max box, I think.
I think you need to go max box. And quite frankly, the reason I'm opposed to putting the fence up is I'd like the school to have the motivation to buy the biggest laurels they can and take care of them
Okay.
as well as they can and water them so they grow as fast as possible. If you get approval to the net, quite frankly, you have no motivation to nurture those laurels and put in the biggest ones possible. So I'm being transparent.
Commission Town Planner Brittany Bendix, one thing I just want to kind of caveat where I see this going is that we don't have the town arborist here with us tonight. She's actually been out for the week. So she will need to be included in whatever the solution is that the town finds relative to landscaping, because she's looking at the heritage trees that are within that site as well. So I don't know if that necessarily means there will be pockets that are open between the laurels and the heritage trees. But I just do want to put that out there for you to consider.
Well, we can't dictate that they put up can make a recommendation that they consider it. But what we can do right now is either approve or deny the fence.
You could add a condition that they have
Oh,
to include
yeah, what a cute-
landscaping. And you could be specific, but you could also say in consultation with the town arborist. You could also continue the discussion to a later date and give the school time to work with their team and the town arborist to come up with a landscaping proposal
That would
that
be,
you would then see.
What I'm thinking.
And
That
the
seems-
public
that
would be
seems-
able to
That
comment
seems
on.
like a smart approach.
Right.
I
That's
think
what I think.
I think we've delivered a message of what we want.
Come back to us with a green wall proposal.
Yes.
With or without fencing. Or sorry, well,
Without.
okay. To a point made earlier by one of the neighbors about this being a fence, the zoning code actually requires that we treat it as a building. So we're not calling it netting in favor of it being a fence. We're actually holding it to the same standards that we would require a building at this location. So,
no, I
and that's,
understand that.
just wanting to acknowledge why I did say it was a fence, but technically we've been applying more
It's a structure.
conservative standards. Yeah.
It's a structure. And also, for the record, there's a lot of commentary about increased enrollment and more students and et cetera. I've been involved in, I think, 5 of these conditional use reviews, and each one of them, it's been very explicit. There's been no change in the number of students. However, I can easily see how the change that was made to the turf design could lead to greatly increased usage on Wonderlick Field. I can see that. But it's not, to my knowledge, through increased student union or student body population.
Right, yeah. I agree with you, Bob. I think that redesign of the field has led to more athletics being played out there. I've noticed it being busier and I pass by there quite often. So I'd be for tabling it and coming up with a better plan that includes planting and how that works with Sally and her, advising on that too, and what her opinion is.
Right. So we need a motion to table it? Just-
Yeah. So you can continue it to a date certain, to a date certain, which would be the next planning commission meeting in April. Get the specific date for a second. That would be April 22nd. If for whatever reason they weren't able to come up with a solution by the time we need to do the staff report in preparation for the hearing, assuming we went beyond that, we would then do another round of public notice for whatever the hearing date is that's chosen.
Or we could table it to the May meeting.
Or we could table it to the May meeting tonight.
I'll leave it up to you.
You would prefer the April date?
As opposed to, sorry, I was taking some notes on the date there while you were talking.
April 22nd or May 27th.
Need to have a proposal in place before, right, and submit it to you in advance.
Yeah.
In terms of what's feasible.
So the April date is pretty quick.
Yeah, then I'm not sure whether that would be possible. So let's go for that May date then.
Okay.
And then we can put something together for you. Brittany, were you?
May 27th.
Okay,
So, yeah, I just wanted to add just one thing, just for the record, I think it's really important to recognize the safety issues that are involved and understand the need for what's going on in the field to protect the neighborhood and the neighbors and the properties. But at the same time, we need to balance the concerns of the neighbors in the neighborhood and as far as aesthetics are concerned and what their concerns are too. So I just think giving it a little bit more thought, coming up with somewhat of a different plan that still protects neighborhoods while even adding aesthetic value is important to see that balance and that compromise with the neighbors.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you. Now we welcome the opportunity to see if we can find a solution that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had no idea that was going to be such an interesting topic. We'll move on to the next item, item 4C, request for a variance at 70 Linda Vista Avenue. Tom, you've got that one?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Polito. Tom is pointing out that you didn't take a vote on moving it to that date.
I asked you if we needed a motion, and you said,
Oh, sorry.
okay, so we need a motion to table it to the May meeting.
Yes.
So moved.
I'll second. Go
All in
ahead, Steve.
favor?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we're going to move on to 4C unless Brittany stops me again.
Thank you.
Tom, this is yours.
Yes, this is Tom Ford, Senior Planner. Good evening. So I'm here to talk about 70 Linda Vista Avenue. Next. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve a variance, which I'll get into here, at 70 Linda Vista Avenue to allow for the reconstruction of portions of the original structure that are within required yard setbacks. And that's based on the findings enumerated in the staff report. Next. So a little background. It's a 1 acre lot, basically, in a neighborhood of primarily square 1 acre lots. There's a couple that are much larger, but generally they're just 1 acre and square. It's in the R1A zoning district. As I said, most of the neighbors are 1 acres and developed similarly in that they have houses, accessory buildings, garages, pools. Camino El Lago is the nearest cross street. The existing residence was constructed in 1936. Portions of the house, as you can see on this diagram on the screen right now, are legally non-conforming at the side and the rear setback based on the setbacks that exist today, not in 1936. The applicant requests a variance to reconstruct legally non-conforming portions of the residence for reasons that I'll now get into. Last summer and fall, the planning department did review building permit and demolition permit submittals. We discussed with the applicant the degree of renovation that was needed at some of these places, including the places that are the legally non-conforming sections. There's 2 sections of the Alameda Municipal Code that deal with this. Section 1726040C allows for up to 50% repair or renovation, that you can take up to 50% and as part of your reconstruction, renovation. At the same time, 1726040B allows for expansion of that 50%. You can go beyond it if you can show that it's for reasons of maintenance or repair. So it was then that the applicant submitted a series of photos with descriptions keyed to places on the building where they were pointing out the need to exceed that 50%. That's in your staff report as attachment 3. These are just excerpts. Next. However, the chief building official visited the site in February and noticed that the entirety of the area was removed. This is the part that's in the side setback. And So he brought that to our attention and he put a stop work on just this section of the site. And we spoke with the applicant and told them that they needed to move forward with a variance to do this properly. Next. So the applicant submitted drawings that showed, what they were proposing to develop, but also the red hatches shows where they needed to remove structure for the purposes of repair and maintenance. Here, and these are slightly updated from the staff report. The staff report didn't show a hatch on the roof, but clearly if you're going to take away the wall, the roof is going to go too. So these are updated. The reason I show the second floor is I wanted to point out that when they removed the balcony, they're not actually proposing to replace it. So they're just replacing the existing footprint and the existing square footage. But whereas the balcony extended even further into that non-conforming setback, they won't be replacing that. Next. The applicant supplied a narrative that was attachment 1 in your staff report. And as I point out a number of times in the staff report, particularly in the findings, the proposed reconstruction does not intensify either the footprint or the project square footage. The applicant, as I said earlier, attachment 3, they submitted a series of detailed photographs keyed to certain parts of the site or parts of the building that showed the degree of damage and need for repair. The applicant is here tonight and they have a very, very brief presentation that shows a couple more of these places where there was definitely site damage that needed repair. Next. So with that, I would propose that the Planning Commission move to approve the variance at 70 Linda Vista Avenue to allow for the reconstruction of portions of the original structure that are within the required yard setbacks based on the findings enumerated in the staff report. And that's the conclusion of my report. And as I said, the applicant is here.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commissioners for Tom before we hear from the applicant?
Go ahead, Steve.
The footprint of the house on the lot is unchanged.
Correct. They're not proposing any change.
So if we go back to that slide, that the project description that shows the foundation that's been kind of poured already there. So just so I understand this correctly, they removed a portion of the existing structure in that picture, project description, and then so that foundation there is within the footprint of what they took out already?
It's exactly the same footprint. So
Okay.
they showed drawings of that.
And so was there a violation at all of them removing that portion of the previous structure, or is that something that they should have notified you about first? What's the process there?
What planning had approved for them to do was renovate, not to remove and reconstruct completely. So that's why when we saw this, we stopped it and said, you need to get a variance because you've gone beyond the degree of repair.
But they haven't expanded. That's the same footprint you're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
and then the next slide, the project description. So the red portion there on that north elevation demo, that represents what they took out. Is that correct?
Correct. And also on the upper floor plan, you can see some hatch. So those walls are all gone and that balcony is gone.
Okay. And then what they're proposing new would fit within that second floor demo diagram, that footprint there without the balcony.
Correct. So the previous, stay here, the previous photo where you saw that foundation, it's exactly lined up with what those upper level walls are on the right of this image.
Thanks for the clarification.
Anything else? All right, I'll open public comment with the applicant first.
Let's see. I'm John with Peninsula Custom Homes. Yes, we are looking for a variance. This is the existing home. Slide. We're trying to keep it obviously in the same footprint, which is what we're doing. It's not, no, sorry. Due to the age of the structure, we did find, as we got into it farther and farther, we were finding more and more stuff covered up by past renovations. Foundation that you can see here is not to seismic code. So we did submit drawings and we got those approved. Slide. The grade elevation was backfilled up against existing structure. That's where a lot of this rot came in at the very bottom from that old foundation. This is the back corner. We did have it surveyed before and after, so we are not changed the footprint. But the concrete that was there on that existing foundation was just falling apart. But it was covered by different layers of past reservation or renovations. And here you can see that rim board actually had dirt up against it. We've since removed due to the repairs. So then next slide. And this is what the house is going to end up with.
That it?
Yep, and that's what I'm open to questions. If you
Questions?
I do have a question. Again, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about, or I'm wondering what the misunderstanding or miscommunication would have been and how you proceeded with the work.
we knew that there was rot and that their foundation was deteriorating, so we engineered or had drawings drawn up, submitted to the building department, and got it approved.
It just seemed,
So that's in where we sit with the foundation right now was inspected by the building.
okay.
So there's been a couple of changes in the building department. So I think that's where the building official came out.
Okay.
And it looked to me like some of the original foundation
We capped
poured over.
a lot, yes. So if you look, I don't have a picture from inside. That foundation wall is pretty thick because we're leaving what's there and we came up on the outside of it.
The net effect is the foundation will be higher from grade.
Correct. So we're in where there was wood, it's now concrete.
Okay. Any other public comment? Thank you.
There's no public comment at this time.
Okay. So I'll close public comment, bring it back to the commissioners for discussion and action. I went out there. Obviously this 3-foot rear setback on that size property strikes me as totally irrelevant, but I was concerned about the other dimension and the 34 feet. But received no comment from the neighbors, and they've been noticed on this, I guess. So there's as near as I could tell, there's very little visibility from the neighboring properties, and taking out that balcony is a plus.
Mhm.
So I'd be inclined to let them finish this, what appears to me to be a beautiful project.
I agree.
Me
I was
too.
out there today and they were working on it and I can see why the neighbors didn't come. It's completely shielded.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the planning commission approve the variance at 70 Lind Avenue to allow the reconstruction of portions of the original structure that are within the required yard setbacks based on the findings enumerated in the staff report.
Second.
Or comments or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're back to you now, aren't we?
Yeah, so I will,
Thank
Brittany
you.
Bendix, Town Planner, I will start the Director's Report portion of this agenda. At our last City Council meeting, we had quite a bit of activity. SB 79 was adopted. And so we will send that off to HCD for their review. SB 79 is the state legislation that dramatically increases the density from one single-family home on 7 properties in Atherton to 120 dwelling units per acre. So kudos to Tom and Lauren, who led the charge on getting us to a point where we would have standards for such projects if they were to get submitted as of July 1st, because we were on a quick timeline.
That was well done too. Thank you.
We also went over the annual progress report, and that's typically on the council's consent agenda, but the mayor pulled it off. And so we were able to have some good discussion about those numbers and tying in what programs and policies we have that feed those numbers. So it was nice to have some discussion about that. It's very similar to what we did at the Planning Commission meeting. Oh, I know there was one more thing I wanted to mention about SB 79 that I don't believe I mentioned to you before. And that's that we've been able to have a preliminary meeting with HCD already. So we do believe that we are in good shape on that legislation. The inclusionary fee was adopted at the last council meeting that effectively rests at 150 square feet, $150 per square feet for rental units and $200 per square feet for ownership units in multifamily development. That's effective immediately, but then our inclusionary housing ordinance in general became effective on Saturday over the weekend. To beat that, we received a number of SB 330 preliminary applications, and SB 330 relates to the Housing Accountability Act that allows applicants to submit a preliminary application to lock in whatever the requirements are prior to any changes in the code. So it does mean we've received 5 applications on our RM10 sites to do multifamily development, which is very good in terms of meeting our RM10 program objectives in the housing element. We needed 3 sites. However, we won't likely be getting inclusionary units out of these consistent with our adopted program because they were able to submit before the program became effective. So that's one of the things that I'm reviewing in the near future is those applicants.
Can you tell us which properties? Or those are the Bay Road properties?
Yeah, let me bring it up and then I can close out with that. I have one other.
I'm shocked. Five of them.
Yeah.
All rushed to get through to avoid the inclusionary fee.
Well, and if some of them are anticipating state density bonus program, which means then to be eligible, they have to provide at least 1 inclusionary unit. So the requirement for inclusionary housing programs on the RM10 sites was 14% for a 10-unit project. That would mean 1 unit plus that 0.4 value in whatever the fee is. They're basically getting out of paying that 0.4 fee because they're going to provide an inclusion anyway.
No, but I still can't believe they can do 10 units, no affordability and very high resale prices, and has moved on it yet. And then suddenly this comes up, everybody, I say everybody, but 5 of how many RM10 sites do we have? We only have 8 or 10.
Trying to log into our records, but I'm blanking on my password under pressure. Jerry was on hand to do most of the logging, so he's telling me where the cheat sheet lives. So we have 23 Oakwood, 197 Ravenswood, 99 Ringwood, 175 Ravenswood, 296 Bay Road.
Okay. 2 in Lindenwood, 2 on Ravenswood.
And so SB 330 allows them to vest their potential project and lock it in with whatever the fees and the rules are at that point in time. They now have 6 months to actually submit whatever applications are required to move forward with the project. The applications do require payment of a fee for my time to effectively look and meet with the applicants to kind of discuss their general proposal. They're required to have a site plan and some basic elevations, and then a general kind of layout or a description of what they're doing, but it's not as specific as what you would expect in a regular application. If they deviate by more than 20% in floor area or units, then they lose their vesting capabilities.
So it's 3 Ravenswood properties, all 3 of them, 1 Bay Road property.
2 Bay Road, 999 Ringwood, Bay Road.
Yeah.
It was going faster than I could write.
Sorry. The two Ravenswood properties that are on the edge, right? It's a set of 3. So the middle one did not submit. And then you have the corner of Bay Road,
Right.
not the one next door. And then I kind of lose track. And then the one on the very end.
But obviously, if they submitted under 330, they were already cogitating this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All but one is owner led. So these applications also reflect people that are in contract to purchase the properties and develop them, with the exception of one.
They're going to sell to a developer. Is that what you're saying?
The developer has submitted the application.
Okay. That's where the money.
All right. The last thing that I wanted to raise is that we've had some further internal discussions relative to our SB9 approach. And right now, one of the things that I will be doing is changing our application requirements to restrict applicants who are LLCs. So we do have a number of applicants who are LLCs and have already submitted their application. I won't be rejecting or denying their application on that factor, but I will be alerting to potential applicants that are out there that we are shifting our rules and we won't be accepting any applications from LLCs at a near date. I haven't picked that date yet, but I will be beginning that conversation and putting that out into the public. This is likely to reduce the number and volume of applications that we receive by quite a bit, because most of them are from LLCs, and this decision is supported by HCD, who has already put out a letter in support of saying that LLCs do not have to be accepted.
And why is that?
Because they don't reflect an individual.
So if I recall that SB 9 requires someone to live in that property.
Yes.
3 years for 3 years, and that 3 years starts on the application. So
The completion of the map or the final of the building that is developed as part of the lot split.
but construction takes 1.5 years, so.
Well, so if a unit has to be built for somebody to occupy it, then the occupancy timing doesn't start until the building is completed.
And is this going to be enforced?
The The occupancy or the LLC?
The occupancy.
The occupancy is challenging to enforce. We would have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis with the nuances of whatever is occurring at that time.
Have we challenged one yet?
No, I don't believe I'm not totally sure that we even have one that's that finished. We do have lots that are completed, but so many of our SB 9 applications have included the demolition of the existing home and construction of another one. I'd have to look at that data to see where we're at.
The one on Lowry is very close to finish.
Yes. What Lowry may have been our first application.
Yeah. But that's also different because that home was vacant for 3 years before it was torn down. So that changes the rules.
Yeah.
I was by the one that's near the Atherton Channel that's we had in here for multiple meetings, and they're going to town on it now, and that's one that's clearly going to be contestable. That's a general contractor that's building for spec.
I don't remember which one you mean exactly.
It's between Camino Lago and Linda Vista property that's on here, right side. Get it? We had to scale a fence or
Go into the canal.
Or go into
Yeah,
the
I remember
canal.
that one. Yeah. It was fun.
What else?
That's it.
Anything from any commissioners' reports? Hey, all right, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Then move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.